Welcome to my daily review. Today is Monday, May 12th. Tomorrow's May 13th. So today's got to be the 12th. And yesterday was Sunday, the May 11th. It was Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day, belated happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Anyway, I just want to go over, review the day's action and the Nasdaq here, which we're looking at. You're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq. And it's very important for me to just, stay grounded, stay level-headed, stick to my strategies, don't chase the shiny object. And so that's just kind of because that's gotten me in trouble before. And usually when I chase the shiny object, that leads to underperformance. So I kind of just stick to the stocks that I know and buy in proper buy points and stick to my strategy. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. I just want to point out here, we had this 27% correction on the Nasdaq, and most of it, after this, first leg down, and what I call the first leg down in this kind of flat base pattern, most of this was attributed to uncertainty from, administrative policies. And so that was eliminated today. So that uncertainty from this administration was removed and the market and it kind of rejoiced. The Nasdaq was up 779 points or 4.35%. You could see the volume was 28% above the 50-day average daily volume. We've seen now a series of days here where the volume has been higher and the Nasdaq has been higher. This is essentially another follow-through day after, it ran up and paused a little bit, then it ran up and it paused a little bit. These little boxes now, it's gapped out of another one here. And yes, we look like we're seeing, a V-shaped rally trading higher because since the uncertainty has been removed, the economy is still strong. Businesses, some of the businesses did not give forward guidance due to the uncertainty, depending upon the industry group that they're in. But there's no reason to think that it can't get maybe not back up to 20,204, the December 16th high, but definitely up back into this range here above 19,000. We do 19 and 20,000, and it closed today at 18,708. So it's only a couple hundred points away, which I think it could, do that, relatively easily and just trade in a range in that area. I wanted to point out something today that, the NASDAQ closed near the highs today. I'll get you the daily range here in a minute. I think it was like 2 points off the high, and you could see it powered into the close, maybe some short covering into the close. But to me, that kind of indicates maybe a higher open tomorrow, and I don't want to get too excited about, an open, but I do like strong closes. There you can see the high of the day was 18,710 and it closed at 708 and change. So just a tick off of the high. So that would be 99% of the daily range. So a nice gap higher. And it held, as I showed you on the 5-minute chart, it held the gap and then, traded higher into the close. So that to me, bodes well for tomorrow. But like I said, we had the 27% correction. Looks like a V-shaped rally. Now that the uncertainty is gone, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but certainly, the economy is kind of slowing and the unemployment rate's ticking up. We could see the Fed lower rates now because Jerome Powell doesn't have that excuse of, uncertainty because we know what the tariffs entail. So that was good from the administration this weekend. All right. I guess I'll go to the SPY here. The SPY, just like the NASDAQ traded through its 200, closed near the highs of the session. And you can see the 10 and the 21 trading through the 50 as it, has this V-shaped recovery. I do have to go back to the NASDAQ because I missed a couple of things. Yeah, it closed 2.1% above the 200. So it's been below the 200 since March. It's traded below it March, all of April, and now May. What did I say? The 13th? Or is it the 12th? It's the 12th. It trades above the 200. So nearly 2.5 months. So this is very reminiscent of 2018, bear market where it sold off like this due to, tariffs and trade war with China. But anyway, just wanted to point that out where 10 EMA is trading above the 50. The 21 now is above the 50. We've seen, what, 13 days in a row where it's traded above the 21 now. The the index today now is 6.8% above the 21, 7.7% above the downtrending 50. So this is time to step on the gas. We went green today, and that's why, it took out some of the old threshold here of 18,281. It traded through its 200, and it looks like all systems go. That doesn't mean every day it's going to be up, 4%. There's going to be digestion of gains and allow these moving averages to catch up. And I just want to stick to leaders, and I'm going to get to that. First, I want to point out, though, I showed you the SPY, and the indexes are fine. And what drives the index, we know, are these mega cap technology stocks. This is Apple. It was up 6% today. So whether Nasdaq was up over 4, this was outperforming. Now it just traded up to its 50 today, so it's got to get through that area. They announced. They're looking at raising the price of iPhones, which sounds inflationary to me. I don't like the sound of that because I use Apple products, MacBook Pro, and I use iPhone and iPad and Apple Watch and all that jazz. So anyway, I don't like to hear that they want to raise prices on the iPhone, but Wall Street likes it. It means, more revenues going forward. And it was up 6%. Anytime Apple's up that much, the indexes are all going to be up. Microsoft up 2.5%. Looking pretty good. But the two that I like in the Mag 7 are Meta. For one, why do I like Meta? Just because randomly I like Meta. No, not really. I don't really care for Meta. But the stock itself, you can see the 10 trading through the 50 and now the 200. And the 21 is going to trade through the 50 tomorrow. So to me, that's a buy sign. If you didn't buy it today, breaking out of that box. I didn't have it on my ready list. Certainly you could use that 633.88, which it powered through today, as an area of interest, or just starting to nibble if you like Meta. To me, the best looking one of the Mag 7 is Tesla. I pointed this out many times along the way here, that it's kept bumping up against its 200, got rejected, came up again couple times, rejected here. The last time it came, it must have been 5 or 6 times. On Friday, it closed above the 200. Today followed through. Now I had this thing, I like it above 300, and I'm not expecting it to be a world beater. A 10% move from 300 would take it to 330. Maybe, a 15% move. I don't know, maybe 345, 350, just for a trade. I'm not saying it's going to get back to, 488, but just for a trade, this thing looks pretty darn good to me. And that's all we need is a trade, right? All right. So Nvidia, the semiconductors obviously got a little bit of help today with that news on tariffs, but this one's still below its 200. So it has some resistance to burn through there. So a lot of the the Mag 7 stocks are what drive the indexes higher. Google, not part of the Dow, but still. And this one, remember, Meta and Google still, I mean, the FTC still after these guys are going to ask them to break up at some point. And Google needs to get back through that 166.10 area. It's got a lot of work to do. Amazon was up today. Obviously, the news really helps the retail group. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But Amazon was up 8%. Anyway, that's it for the Mag 7. I want to get to the earnings reports because we had some earnings reports on Monday. When it reports on Monday, it's usually a good thing, but it was kind of flat today. This thing has a cup with handle pattern. I really thought it was going to take off today, but it didn't. And we've seen a lot of wonky moves around earnings reports. Like it took Robinhood nearly 2 weeks to start moving. Dutch Bros just started moving today. After strong reports, you just can't expect your stock to gap up just because it had a good report. There's a lot of factors involved, including, funds that are short that don't want to get their faces ripped off. And just, companies that are institutions that are, just taking their time getting in, don't want to make the big splash. But, I really thought this would be a bigger move here. Nice 30%, consistent 30% sales growth. 80%, went from 33.66 to 80% earnings growth. I think this will be rewarded eventually. I did not have it on my ready list this morning, but it's going on there at 283. I think this one's going to move eventually, maybe not tomorrow or the next day, but eventually Monday, it looks good. So as I say that, Energy Reports is a utility company, folks, up 26%. Now they made a purchase, they had earnings here. Nice surprise to the upside, I would say 84% EPS growth. They bought a company and man, did Wall Street reward these guys right away. So yeah, gap and go for this one. And that's a move not to be ignored, Dan. In RG, and that's the Utility Diversified Group. I'm going to get to some of those in a minute here. I just want to do the earnings this morning, the earnings reports that came in this morning. Drill baby drill, not so much with the oil prices the way they are, but I think this thing's probably bottom. You could say it's 17, and it's gradually moving up, and you could see the 10 is trading through the 50, and looks like the 21 does so. Slow and steady wins the race. That thing looks like it's slowly grinding higher. And the last one I wanted to point out for all the degenerate gamblers out there, sports radar. And this one had a good report, but flat move. Once again, they're going to move when they want to move, not when you want them to. So you just can't, buy it and say, hey, I had a great report. It should be up 20%. It doesn't work that way, folks. But anyway, this one, I do like it. I like the report, and I think it's going to trade at a new high here pretty soon, 25.85. But you just got to be patient, and people just are not patient enough these days. They want their stocks to go up immediately, and I think patience is a real virtue in the stock market. And like I said, chasing the shiny things will lead to underperformance, and being patient and sticking with it, buying at proper buy points, and knowing what you own has its rewards. All right, I've got to go to where shall I start? I did the Mag 7, I did the earnings reports. There's a lot of stuff. I want to get to the leaders and I want to get to, I guess I'm going to start with cybersecurity, OKTA. This one, should have been on my yeah, it should have been on my ready list today. I screwed this one, got to admit it. Okta I like a lot. I like this group a lot, but I can't have CrowdStrike and Zscaler and all these other ones on here. So I picked Rubrik, but all these look pretty good to me. CrowdStrike traded down to the 21. I was going to put this one on this morning, but I didn't because I didn't want to have too many. I put on Rubrik instead, but CrowdStrike is definitely a buy off that 21. Rubrik, kind of a slacker, only up 2.25% today, but you can see the double bottom base and why I like that one. And then Zscaler, I did mention that one, man. This thing's just making new highs. So it's a very strong group. I like a lot of these names in here, but I'm not going to have a ton of cybersecurity stocks because if they get hit one day, then you get all your stocks hammered down in one day. So if you're going to own one, to me, I like Rubrik, but if you like CrowdStrike, that's fine too. Anyway, that's it for the cybersecurity names. I want to get to the leaders because I had a lot of questions today about um, Spotify, it was down. Oh, the market's up so much. Nasdaq's up 4% and Spotify's down. It totally sucks. No, it doesn't. Not going to go up every day. And this is another one like, know what you own here. Spotify was down today. It's been seen as a kind of a defensive, not as defensive, kind of like a safe haven stock, like the gold stocks, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Because during heavy tariffs, this is a spot where people are going to subscribe and they're not going to, it's not going to be impacted by tariffs. So it was down 4% today, but just came back that old buy point of 621.20. To me, that would be an add-on if you don't own it. I mean, if you do own it, that's an add-on. If you don't own it, to me, that's a buy. And that one's going to be on my ready list tomorrow as well. I can't pass that up. A pullback to the 21. I think it was down like 45 bucks this morning and then bounced pretty nicely off the 21. So the 21 is 610.78 and it traded down to 602. So it undercut it a little bit, found support and bounced, went up to 632. So that's a nice move from 602 to 632, which is a $30 intraday move. But off that 21 EMA. There you go. There's the low and there's the bounce. So to me, I don't know. I think this is an opportunity. Very rarely do you see stock like this. Well, I shouldn't say that because it just did it after earnings the other day. But nice pullback like that, $40. That's a nice pullback. I think that thing bounces later on. It's a stock that I want to own. Same with Netflix. Very rarely, well, this one didn't even come down to the 21, darn it. It barely moved. Okay, 2.5% move down, $30. Not a big deal. But these are leading stocks, okay? And the leading stocks, they're not going to go up every day. I think Netflix did go up every day for like 10 days in a row. So it pulled back a few days. Not a big deal. This is still a leader, as is a MicroStrategy. It pulled back today, 2 something percent. Bitcoin was up to like 104 in the morning. I think it closed around 101, 102. So it was down a little bit today, but don't be mistaken. This is a leader. It's been on our ready list here for a couple of weeks, and I like it down here for once to pull back to the 10 at 400. What's the 10 today? 391, going up $3 or $4 a day. So if it wants to do that this week, I think I'll put that thing back on the ready list as well. All right, other leaders, and I want to get to Hims. I had people quite, what's the matter with Hims? Jesus Christ, people, the thing was up 6.25%. There's nothing wrong with it. It did have a gap to fill here at 54.75. It came down and filled that gap today at 54.20 and then moved higher during the session. You could see it gapped higher on the news. I'm not going to get into the news, but it did gap higher, then pulled back, kind of leveled off around that 55 area. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's fine. You know what? Matter of fact, I should, with these leading stocks that I'm going over, I have to go to the 5 because leading stocks are going to find support at the 5. And that's what HIMS has been doing since, making this low as the 5 and the 21 rallied through the 50. It gets support at the 5 every time. And now it's 8.4% above the 5. So you got to let it come into the 5 here. It might trade up to 60 and then pull back to the 5 at a higher number, at a higher level, but it is going to pull back to that 5, at some point. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not Wednesday, but at some point it's going to pull back to the 5. So just keep that in mind. This thing's a monster. It's not going to go up and rip, 10% every day. To me, a 6.25% move. Thank you very much. I'll take that every damn day. Same with Robinhood. People are, what's the matter with it? It's up 5%, folks. I mean, I know it gapped higher, and you wanted to see the big gap and go here and have it, move to 60 or 65, but once again, it's getting a little bit away from the 5. So you need to allow that 5 to catch up to it. Just allow the moving averages. These are leading stocks. Institutions are buying these. These are in demand. I mean, Hims and hers had two secondary offerings last week, convertible notes, large ones, 475 million and 450 million. And this thing still went higher. So the demand is there. Just give it some time. Know what you own with Hood and Hims, please. I think I had both of them on the ready list. And that doesn't mean go out and mortgage the house and it's going to go up immediately, but I just think you should own it, and it's trending higher. And I think no doubt it's going to take out that 66.91, just a matter of time. If you have time and patience, then it's one to own. All right, I'm going to move on to another leader, Palantir, which was down today. I think I put this one on my ready list as well. Yeah, maybe I didn't. I have a bunch of stocks that I was going to put, like 30 stocks. I only had 7 or 8 because I don't want to make it too confusing. But this is one that I definitely like. Remember, I said a handle takes 5 days at least. So it made the high here on May 5th of 125.26 and pulled back after earnings 1, 2, 3, 4. Today was the 5th day. So now it's got this handle. I think tomorrow and the rest of this week, you can expect it to start creeping back above that 125 level. First, it's got to get above 120, obviously, but that's a nice cup with handle pattern there. I know it's a late stage base. If you look at the weekly, this thing's looking beautiful to me. Earnings line heading north. I think it's going to make a new 52-week high. Anyway, I've got people saying, I don't want to buy Palantir. I don't want to buy, ServiceNow or Salesforce or some of these software names. So they buy IGV, which is fine. And they were saying it's up 17% off the April 7th lows, which is fine. But to me, this is the point I got to make about buying leaders. I want to own the leaders. If you own IGV, you're not going to get hit with an earnings miss or an earnings, sell off, which, always hurts. And it's up, 26% since the April 7th low, which is great. But, I want to own the leader. So if you bought Palantir that day, you're lapping the field. You're doubling it by owning a stock instead of an exchange traded fund, because in an exchange traded fund, they have to have the leaders, Palantir, and the laggards. And I'm not going to mention the laggards, but I'm just trying to point out that if you own the leaders, you're going to have outperformance. And that's what I'm seeking here at MC Stock Charts. I want you in these leading stocks, and that's why I keep pointing them out every day. And if you don't own them, that's fine. Not yet, but I think there's still time. There's no rush if we're going to have an extended rally, which I think we are. But it's time to get off the stick and start buying some of these leaders here if you don't own them. I just showed you Netflix, MicroStrategy, Spotify, Palantir, four leaders that have just still pulling back and still near buy points. So don't blow it. All right, Uber is another leader. This thing to me, a lot of people are getting excited. Oh, it's up 6%. And this is what gets me. Hims was a disappointment because it was up 6%. And Uber is a stock of the year because it's up 6%. To me, this is, I'm just being a smartass. This is not broken out yet. It had a nice day. I get it. It's had a nice run up from the lows. You can see the RS line, the blue dot. But to me, that's still in consolidation. That 87 is the buy point. So it's just a buck above it. Yeah, it's extended off the 4%, but I think you can buy it right there around 87 if it wants to pull back a little bit tomorrow or the next day. Uber is definitely a leader. Another one that I have, I post these screens every morning and I have to get their criteria a little more strict because there's going to be more stocks on there after a day like today. But Roblox is definitely one of them. Again, this cup with handle pattern had the nice shake out of these 4 days down to the 5. Where's it finding support, folks? At the 5. Yeah, it ran up today to 74.60, but it's not going to get too far above that 5, 2.5% above it. Yeah, I think 75, what is this old high? 75, 74. Yeah, it's going to be taken out pretty quickly here. They move in spurts, so let's give it some time to move. All right, I mentioned leaders. This is a group that I pointed out, I believe, over the weekend or last week. A group that I really like are these data center energy construction plays. GEV is my favorite. GEV is the leader. It got whacked on January 27th, like the rest of them, down 21%. It's taken 4 months to recover, but recover it has. It had this little shelf type pattern here as it pulled back to where? Oh, the 5. Okay, and then today blasted 4% higher. See, when this goes 4% higher, it's blasted, but when HIMS goes up 6%, it's a dog. Got it. All right. I'm just being a wise ass tonight. I don't know why. Quanta Services, another one that I like. I believe it was upgraded on Friday and then or Thursday of last week. Had a nice move, consolidate a little bit, but busted out of this little shelf type pattern today. Off of its 5, right? Yeah, that's what leaders do. Up 2% today. Not a bad move. STRL, I didn't even look at this one. Okay, up 3% today, but another one in this group that I like, TLN, another one that I like, up 5% today, still consolidating. These things are buys. I put GEV on the leader on my ready list, but these are all consolidating in a base, trading tight, so finding support at the 5. So these are all buys. I just put GEV in because I want to own leaders. But VST reported last week, VISTA, and this one's consolidating here, made that little shelf type pattern and bounced today, 7% off its 5. Oh, surprise. Okay. This is a very consistent pattern with this group here. So, ride the 5 to higher prices, but when they get extended above the 5, then, maybe trim some, or if you want to just own it for a longer term, add some when it pulls back to the 5. VRT, and now it's at 100, it's got some resistance at the 200. It's at the 100 level, which, is sometimes or oftentimes resistance. We'll see how it handles this round number. Last time it went through it like poop through a goose, but then sold off on that whack day. But you could see the 5 and the 21 have rallied through the 50 with all these names. I know the RS rating's 34. It's right at its 200. I get all that. But to me, I'm going to put this on the ready list at 100. I like it above 100. So, yeah, I know I'm adding a bunch of names today, but I just like a lot of these. So, what can I say? I'm going to move on from this group. I think you get the point. I lied. One more, another one that I kind of like here. You can see why it's got this cup-shaped pattern. Now, this one doesn't have a handle, so it'll probably right there at 87 make a little handle here. That wouldn't surprise me. Sell off 3 or 4 days, pull back to its 5, but that's another one that I like in the building construction area. All right, so now I can move on, right? Okay, I'm going to go to retail, RETL. This is another one that my buddy says, I'm just going to buy retail. I don't want to buy Deckers. I don't want to buy On Holdings or Crocs or Lululemon or, Best Buy or Bros or MELI. I'm just going to buy this. Okay, that's fine. It was up 16% today. This is a retail bull 3 times. To me, I want to buy those names that I just mentioned, Deckers, made a low here at 93 and then riding higher. This is due to, the footwear was really going to get hammered with the tariffs. This is Crocs up 8%. Even Elf flat out said they were going to pass on all tariff costs to their consumer. To me, 78 is an area of interest. 68.99, call it 69. It closed at 74, up 10%. Some of these, I did mention Lulu. Some of these retail names really, you know, looking strong here. Lulu below the 200, I don't particularly like that. Best Buy below the 200, up 6 something percent though. I did mention the shoe group On Holdings. This one looks better than a lot of them. Why? Well, because it's above the 200. The 5 and the 21 are above the 50 and trending higher. Hmm. So of the shoe group, I think I like that one the best. Many other, oh gosh, I mentioned, yeah, MELI. So these are some of the leaders in retail. Mercado Libre up 2% today, just broke out of that double bottom base, just, yeah, allowing the 5 to catch up here. That's all. SE, this one reports earnings in the morning. I like this one a lot. I would have put this on my ready list. It didn't have report tomorrow, but after earnings tomorrow, I could definitely put this on if the report is okay. It looks to me like it wants to bounce off that 5, which is 141.63, and a 10% move on earnings would take it up to that 155 area. So that would be nice. That's not my expectation. I mean, actually, it is my expectation. It's not a prediction, but I do expect it on a decent earnings report to have a 10% move. Well, what other ones? Oh, Carvana, another leader in this group. Nice cup-shaped pattern. Needs a couple of days, to form a handle, but bounced nicely off the 5 today. And yeah, okay. All right. I'm going to move on. I mentioned NVIDIA earlier. The semiconductor stocks got a boost from the tariff as well, up 12, nearly 13% today. Broadcom is a larger one of these semiconductor names, up 6%. Very nice. What else do I have? Oh, AMD. To me, between AMD and NVIDIA, I swear I like AMD better right now. They're both, struggling below, their 200, but this one broke out of above a downtrend line today. I don't know. You could see the moving averages, the 10 and the 21's going through the 50. I just think AMD is a better buy or a bargain, more of a bargain at 174 billion market cap than, NVIDIA around 3 trillion. So that's just me. Anyway. I know people love NVIDIA. That's fine. All right. Now, this morning, the world was coming to an end with XBI. It was selling off, and we had the most favored nation. And I was telling you, I think over the weekend, that a lot of this stuff is priced in. If we know it, then the market knows it. So, everybody's expecting this thing to crash and burn. Has put some sarcastic tweets out. about it's probably going to zero, right? With this most favored nation. And you saw Lilly down in the morning and Novo Nordisk and a lot of these biotech stocks or drug stocks were down. You can see kind of gap down at the open, and instantly buyers came in and it traded higher. This is Eli Lilly up $21 or 2.86%. Even Novo Nordisk was up 3% today, even though there was a trial that came out saying that Lilly's weight loss drug is, the compound's a little better than Novo. I don't think people really care. If they're on the drug, Ozempic, Wegovy, they want to lose weight. Yeah. Anyway, I got to get to ADMA. This is a company that doesn't have tariffs, right? I mean, it's a U.S. company. The CEO put out the note. It was up 2.3% today. It had earnings last week and pulled back to its 50 and closed Friday below the 50. I took it off my leading stock list. I still like it. And, 2070 is still the buy point there. And a bounce off that 50 would be nice. I would not ignore, this has got solid fundamentals. TGTX, same thing, stock that I like. Traded down to 33 a couple of times, kept bouncing along that 33 area. And I think that's probably the low there. You can see as it sold off 7 days in a row, just constantly, come on, Marty, get it together. 33.15, 33, between 33 and 34, traded here a couple of days, right? And now today it bounced higher. And I think that's about it. If you got it at 33.15, yeah, 33.45, it went from a 7 billion market cap to 5 billion in 7 days, from what, 46 down to 33. I think that's about enough. A stock has to stop going lower before it can go higher. And you can see this the selling kind of abated here after earnings on a Friday, and today gets a little move here of what, 4%. Yeah, I just think longer term, these guys are taking market share, and I would like to see this one rally back through its 50. We'll see. It's definitely, sold off, and I don't know. The demise of the drug stocks due to most favored nation, I think, was a little exaggerated this morning. All right. That's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up, except in the honor of the great Steve Jobs. I have one more thing, and that is after hours, we had these earnings reports. ASTS, it looks like it's got a little, I think I looked at it and they didn't lose as much money as expected. And so it's up 3%, 4% after hours. Let's see what happens tomorrow with this thing. I will note that it had some insider buying. So that's always nice to see. Rigatoni, I don't think it had quite the, yeah, down 11% after hours. ACHR, I had this one on the ready list last week. What's it up for? Nearly 5% after hours. Yeah, I might have just been early. I think, it doesn't have any, of the things that I look for in a stock. It's just I like the chart. I know they're going to have good news coming, so it's just going to take some time. I don't own that one, by the way. HTZ, full disclosure. HTZ, yeah, very nice. Bounce off the 21, up 1% after hours. I did not see the report at all. And then SMR up flat after hours. All right. I did want to point out Bros. I missed Bros today. I wanted to point this out because I did mention it that, the earnings report last week and it had a little eye, then flat on Friday. And people are wondering, like, what the hell's wrong with Bros? Well, nothing. It broke above its downtrend line here on Thursday, then had an inside day and pull back to the 5 on Friday. Sometimes you just got to give these guys some time here. And it was up 10% today. And to me, I like it longer term. They're taking market share. They're, 4.7% same source sales. Just off the chain, these guys are taking market share from Starbucks. It's so damn obvious. If you've done this for any length of time and you pay attention, I know a lot of you don't have Dutch Bros in your neighborhood. I just go down the street. I look at the lines and I'm thinking, and then I go to Starbucks and look at their lines. I mean, it's a kindergartner could figure it out. And so it closed today near its highs, broke above, like I said, the downtrending line on Thursday, pulled back to its 5 on Friday, had an inside day, then popped 10%. if we're gonna have a rally, I don't. I see Dutch Bros as a buy. It's 72. Hell yeah, why not? You see the 5 trading through the 50, and tomorrow the 21's going to trade through the 50. The institutions, they don't all buy at once, but you could see these big blue bars. And this one's just, for me, it's just a retail name that I like. And coffee's not going to be hit now, or paper products with those tariffs. Mm. And they're taking market share. So to me, I think I could just put this in my retirement account and just for 5 years look at it, and I think I'm going to be a happy camper. Same with TGTX. So that's what I did, and Robinhood as well. So I don't trade them. I just want to hold them for longer term. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, except for I lie. In honor of the great Steve Jobs, one more time. I just want to point out, something about earnings reports and knowing what you own and being able to hold long term. On October 23rd of 2001, Steve Jobs announced 1,000 songs in your pockets. And Apple is up, what, 67,000% since he made that announcement. Now you'd have to sit through 100 earnings reports, and you could see along the way all these pullbacks, right? And you didn't know they were going to come out with the iPhone in 2007 in the App Store. They were selling, computers, but they didn't have the earbuds and, Beats and all that. They've added a lot since Tim Cook's been there. But I just want to point out that when you own a stock and you know what you own for longer term, the way to make the big money is by sitting. And you say, well, gosh, there's only one Apple. That's true. Apple has changed the way we live, our standard of living. There's damn few stocks like Apple. This is an anomaly. And, we missed it. If you didn't buy it in 2001, 2005, 2009, 2010, now it's kind of a value play. But like I'm saying, it doesn't have to change your life. This is what I want to point out. Just a shoe stock, holding a shoe stock for 20 years or 25 years through all these earnings, Deckers, made people fabulously rich, and so we're embarking on a new economy. There's new companies coming out with these, and I'm kind of pointing you to these leaders of these stocks. And I'm not saying they're going to be Apple, hell no, but a drink stock, or like I just mentioned, Bros or Robinhood, Monster, right? This one is up, geez, even more than Apple, right? So just a drink, can change your life, right? If you just pay attention to these things. Starbucks, which I believe Dutch Bros is going to model themselves after Starbucks. That's a nice little, gain of 2,000%. You have to hold them for a long time. Like I said, with the new economy, I think there's just fabulous opportunities and stuff. Even still, like Netflix is growing, and I mentioned Spotify earlier. These are the new companies that I think we can own. And that's why I kind of point to these leaders of this, new Roblox I mentioned. I think that's going to be one. Hims and Hers, definitely. And there's a lot of them on the leading stock list. And you don't have to have an Apple or an Amazon, to be, they don't have to be life-changing. They could just be something that's growing and taking market share and just be part of your everyday life. Like if you go to Dutch Bros, or if, whatever. I think you get my point. Apple is a rare, bird, but a drink outperformed it. A shoe company, so just um, stay engaged, stay involved, stay invested, and I think that's how you make the money longer term. Anyway, thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.